Hey guys, Dale here from No Tier Gaming. Today we'll be doing an updated Machina deck profile. I've been playing a lot of different stuff lately, so Machina hasn't been so much on, it's been a little bit on the back burner more than anything else, just because it hasn't been my primary deck currently, but I think with the 3 Steel Drain it does become a lot more interesting in terms of how you can build the deck, and what you should be running to accommodate that. So I'll show you guys an updated list for the deck. I have pretty much everything to play this, but I've been having a lot of fun on Exo Sister. Actually got a second place trophy with it recently, this weekend when it came out on Sunday, so a lot of fun with that. So I'll be having a couple deck profiles. So I also got first place at locals with Assault Mode Dharmatica, so that was pretty cool. And I had an Ogdo deck that I can show you guys with the Brave Engine that I think is really solid. It has some cool combos, but let's get into the Machina deck here, and you guys are going to see how Trap Machina works now and some changes I've made. Triple Lord, this is just standard at this point. Lord is started in this deck. Being able to set Overdrive, being able to set Extravagance, and being able to set Deployment is actually just insane for this deck in terms of the value you can get from it. So 100% you're going to almost always kind of run Lord in here because of how powerful Overdrive, Deployment, and Extract can be for this deck. We have the standard Triple Gearframe. Gearframe is unarguably the best starter in this deck for sure. Going normal summon Gearframe, add Unclassed Bear, pitch Citadel, make Gideon, add another Gearframe for follow up on the next turn is just such a good engine to get going, because if they kill your monster, you're getting the Gearframe back. A lot of times you'll have Overdrive to pair with it, or Torrential to pair with it to clear, or even just Steel Drain alone. Steel Drain Vesperado is pretty annoying to deal with for most decks, and that's an immediate issue for a lot of decks to deal with. Or that's an immediate problem for a lot of decks, and they won't all have trouble dealing with it. We have the One Cruncher. I still think One Cruncher is correct. Now that I have Deployment, you don't really even need more normal summons, and I genuinely think Cruncher is a lot worse than Gearframe or even Unclassed Bear in a lot of situations. Definitely just a 1 up there. But you still want it for the level, and just to have another normal summon, I think 6 is going to be pretty optimal most of the time. Double Unclassed Bear. I got tired of drawing this, and then my Gearframes being awful. If you draw Unclassed Bear, all you can really do is summon Fortress, and that's just a lot worse than if you didn't just draw Unclassed Bear. So I think it becomes a lot better at 2-0. I still don't want to draw it, but not if you draw it and you don't have another one in the deck, you're in a really bad spot. Whereas if you draw it and you have another one in the deck, it's going to usually be at least playable for the most part. Drawing 2 sucks, but it is what it is. The odds of that are so low. 1 Rune Force still. You can recycle this if it gets banished, so it's not really that big of a deal. 1 Fortress. Fortress is sick. Being able to just get to your whole thing is insane. I actually got more ways to get to it, because I think Fortress going second, Fortress Citadel going second is just so strong, because you can force a negate on the pop to clear one of their negates and then drop Citadel out, and now you have a 3k beater. The newest addition to the deck, Super Express Bullet Train. I've gone like up and down on how I feel about this card. For one, it's a really bad brick if you draw it, and you don't have a way to do that on the board. However, we have the triple deployment now, that helps to trigger it. We also have Foolish Burial to put in the graveyard if necessary, and it's a good pitch for Fortress. It's also a good pitch, it's also a good banish for Rune Force. Let's just get to Rune Force without committing like a really bad resource, like getting rid of say Citadel or something. It's just another monster for that, without having to play a lot more monsters, and I think that's just very helpful. Then we have triple Pot of Extravagance. I've gone back to Pot of Extravagance. I was on Prosperity for a little bit, but I think just draw 2 is so strong, especially if we're going to be sometimes risking getting deployment stopped, and also having Damage to protect the Extravagance is huge. One Crawl Bloody Rave. Crawl Bloody Rave is fine. I mean, it's at 1 for a reason. The card's insane. Triple Deployment. This is one of the big changes I made personally that I think is necessary now. Because we're at Triple Steel Drain, we no longer have the option to just have Gearframe be our only way to get our engine rolling really effectively. Deployment does the job pretty well. My problem with it before is that if you got Ashed on Deployment, you're in a really bad spot. But we're seeing Ashed getting cut from lists right now, and we're also made space for Gamma in the deck, so that we can also protect our Deployment. But because of Steel Drain, Deployment becomes a lot better, since, like I said, you need to get to your engine. You can't have Gearframe do that as reliably anymore. It also helps if they stop your Gearframe, you can just go into Unclassed Bear, which is really strong. And yeah, I think Deployment is definitely a 3 of now. Before, I think before 1 was correct when we had a little bit more hand traps in the format, but now that we're going to be switching to a little bit less hand traps because of the Aquamaster package, I think Deployment's definitely correct at 3 again. Another new addition, 1 Foolish Burial. Getting Fortress engraved, getting Citadel engraved, getting Rune Force engraved is so huge on this deck now, even more than ever, because of Steel Drain. We need to have those cards in graveyard. That taking a -1 is just fine. We have a 3 of Floodgate that stops our opponent from playing. We don't need to have as much forced interaction to play through stuff as before. Double Overdrive, I think now that we have Deployment to search it, we don't need to play as many, we don't need to play Trap Trick for it as much, which is why I felt comfortable putting Trap Trick now, because this is the way the deck gets rolling and gets its resource game, and it's fine now that you don't have to have that because of Deployment. So I think definitely 2 is correct now. 3 is overkill. Like, there's a lot of games where I draw multiples of this card and I just wouldn't have a normal summon, or it would get stopped and it's no longer an interaction, that I think having it at 2 is definitely better. Triple Strike, Strike's still insane. Even with Still Drain, Strike's absurd. We need to correct those graveyard effects, we need to get rid of those long ones. Yes, Strike's just broken. Always has been. Triple Torrential, Board Wipe's insane. More Board Wipes, the better. Double Ice Dragons. I've debated playing 3, but I just want to draw less dead cards. I still think Ice Dragon's insane. It's one of our best ways to deal with DPE, but I just think it's fine at 2 at this point. Maybe I'll bump it up to 3 in the future, but I think 2 is correct for now, just because of space. I think if we had 1 less card, or 2 less cards to play, I'd definitely play this as my 40th card, but for now it's fine where it's at. Triple Steel Drain. Steel Drain, it's just so broken. This card just goes to a lot of decks and says you lose the game, and that is so incredibly unfair. I love it. So yeah, Triple Steel Drain is definitely correct now. This is a huge update for the deck that makes it a lot better. Triple Imperm. Imperm's not the best trap right now, especially because we have Steel Drain, but its versatility and the fact that it's also a hand trap that doesn't get hurt by I'm totally blanking. It's a hand trap that doesn't get hit by TTT. It can still be crossed, but it can't be called by the grave either. I don't want to have it so that call by the grave, more of our opponent's cards are dead, and also Imperm's just strong going second. I don't really have to explain Imperm to you. Triple Gamma, this is the biggest change, I think, to the deck right now. The deck is now built around this more. We're seeing more Omni Negates being made now, with like the Brave Engine and such, that our Lord is even hard negated more often. When we're facing decks like Bird Up, I guess Bird Up's still lost to just so much of this deck, but when we're facing decks that are good against back row, such as PK, or decks that can consistently make like Appaloosa, and cards like that, I think Lord becomes a lot better. Baroness negating Lord is a huge deal, because it means we're not losing to DP, and I think more than ever, like, activating Lord is really important for this deck specifically. So that wraps up the main deck. I mean, one driver, but who cares? I just want to draw this card. But yeah, I think the main deck is really solid now. I think going into this meta, it's going to be really fair, like a really fair contender overall again. I think it does have some matchups that are questionable. I think Eld's always going to be, like, a deck like DP, Eld's always going to be rough for this deck. There's nothing you can really do about that, just because the fact that Hooked Arrow is going to kill all of your banish effects, and then DP is going to be really good at trading into your boards, as is, it's annoying to out Golden Lord because it's destruction immune, but this deck can still manage it. You might want to slot another Ice Dragon's Prison specifically for that, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Next, going into the side deck, Triple Lancia. I think Evenly is going to become more popular than ever right now. Evenly is insane. Basically, and then into this deck, because you're committing heavily to your board, you're not playing a lot of hand traps. I mean, you're getting resources for recovery, but if you get Evenly and then they combo you, you're 100% losing that game. So yeah, definitely 100%. I think Lancia is sick in this deck. You definitely can play through Evenly, like I've done it in the past. Like if you have Overdrive set and you go for like the standard like Vespanada play with Citadel Graveyard, you can get your whole engine back and you have a Citadel pop still and usually a set trap, which is fine, but it can definitely not be the greatest thing to deal with. So I definitely think it's correct now to play Lancia for that specifically, but also because it just fits into the meta so well. If we look at the meta right now, we have PK loses to Lancia, VW loses to Lancia. We have Eldritch, where Lancia's not insane, but it's still really solid. And then we have Dragon Link, Invoked. They all have a bad, like every deck you can see right now in the format doesn't like Lancia that much. It might not stop their whole turn, but it's definitely going to hurt them a lot. Triple Sanctum, I'm not playing the Scythe for this. I don't think the Scythe is necessary in this deck. I think if you Still Drain people, or if you have Strike or Torrential, a lot of the times you're not going to need that Scythe. But I do think Sanctum to get Lancia is insane. Or set Sanctum, just to get punished by their random DP pops and stuff is really good. So I think Sanctum's really good to get Lancia out, because Lancia will protect you. It's an interaction where if they Lightning Storm you don't have Lord, you can still just get the Lancia out and you still have an interaction afterwards, which is huge. And yeah, it's another way to just protect yourself from Evenly, because Evenly is really good into this deck. Even with the Overdrive play and stuff, it still just hurts. Triple Judgment, Judgment Gober. I mean, this is just Judgment's broken. It shouldn't be at 3. Let's be real. Negate anything is stupid. Triple Cyclone. I think Cyclone now is really good. You need it for the Eld matchup. There's a lot of like random matchups where this card's just really strong. I mean, like even into stuff like Dryden Link, just hitting that boot sector and making it gone forever is huge. Hitting the Fateful Adventure is really big too. I think Cyclone's better than ever. I'd almost consider main decking it, if not for the fact that like our main deck was so tight overall. And then triple Lava Golem. My problem with Lava Golem before is the deck was pretty normal someone rolling it. Deployment kind of cuts that down a lot. Having deployment, gamma, all that fun stuff to protect yourself, rather than just like relying on overdrive and gear frame so much to do a lot of the heavy lifting, I think it makes Lava Golem infinitely better in this deck. So I definitely think 3 Lava Golem is correct. Let's go into the extra deck. Not too much different overall, to be honest. Double Zeus, 1 Vespanado, 2 Didn't, 1 Dreadnought. I dropped the Train Wolf. I think Dreadnought's really, really good in this deck now. But yeah, I dropped the Train Wolf because I just don't think the detach. I think the detach was forced, whereas this is going to do the same thing, except for it doesn't detach. It just swings in, which can be kind of sucky sometimes. But I've had a couple situations where I didn't want to kill their monster, and I had to because of Dreadnought, or a couple times where I think the heavy Train Wolf gave me a game. But like the amount of times that comes up is so low that I think you don't need this. You don't need to play the Wolf anymore. I'd rather run like Omega just to get to make my gamma better overall, and also like be a little bit better into Nittis, or be a little better into like Invoke for Maximus. Double G stuff, double leave. These don't come up as much as like you'd want them to. The benefit though is that you actually have an out to the big ad Ignister. That card is so dumb to deal with. You just really need a good way to deal with it, and leave's kind of your best way to do that. And then 1 Cleforth Genius. Genius is really, really good with overdrive. There's times where just setting up Genius so you have a monster to pop a Citadel is more important, or even better, than going for the better than going for the Genius. Like if they negate your unclass bear, you don't want to just have Citadel on board. Having the Genius to also recur Citadel later, if you have the Citadel pop, it's fine, because now you have the Genius on board to get the Citadel back recurring anyways. Double Knuckler. This card got a lot better in this deck as soon as Still Train comes out, and as soon as we have Bullet Train in the deck. This card grabs Bullet Train back, Bullet Train grabs his Gear Frame, grabs the Conjurer, grabs the Citadel, Petra Fortress back, and it's just so much better now that we can resolve Knuckle for Bullet Train under Still Train, and then have Bullet Train gain us resources back, or even just come out as a 3k beater. It's so much stronger. And it also lets us clear our own Still Train if we have to, which is very important. The 1 Omega, this is for Gamma, this is also for Nittis garbage, obviously. And then the 1 Barricade Word Blocker. And the chance that I have to, if I'm activating deployment, and I kind of fear like they might have an imperm or something along those lines, there are times where grabbing unclassed bear is correct. There's also times where if you normal summon Gear Frame, you can force the Ash and stuff. Or like if you get Gamma on Gear Frame and you need to go for you'll need to go for Barricade Word Blocker with Driver and Gamma, where this just comes up. It's not super relevant, but I figured having the option, the times where it comes up is going to be relevant enough that if you don't have it, you're going to have a really bad time. So yeah, that is the whole deck right now. I think this is probably the best build I can foresee going forward. There might be changes to make as the meta develops, but I think this will be a good shot if you're looking for an updated Machina list. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.